We are on the air.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Sunday, July 1st. Happy Canada Day, 2018.
I'm Michael Agello, live on location in Canada.
I'm Anthony Mangione from Sunrise Philly Magazine.
I'm Peter Tessier, enjoying Canada Day and wishing everyone else a great Canada Day, and thanks to our great American friends for wishing it on us.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. It's Sunday. I don't like doing things on Sunday.
And I am Eklund. You're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. Today is the day that we've all been waiting for, and it's already begun. It's already started. It's been going crazy for a couple hours.
Well, let's be frank here. It started yesterday.
Yeah,
it really started like in the afternoon yesterday with all the contracts. I mean, I don't think that I think the people at TSN and Sportsnet are probably really pissed because I think 2/3 of the news is done, and we can talk about it because I think a lot of the stuff is very interesting and it'll have domino effects. But we're waiting on a certain guy where it's number 91, not Butch Goring.
Yep, and just got a little bit more on him. Talking to somebody in the know, and everyone's afraid to go live with this, but it does sound like he is going to be a Maple Leaf. I know there's a couple things about this that I want to throw out there about this Maple Leaf thing. Mike, could you mute yourself when you're not on?
Yep. Cool.
You're hearing the topic. All right. So, couple things about this real fast that are interesting. Everyone, Lou Lamoriello, I think this is the way. I think that one person talked to me this morning and said, I think Lou's pissed off. And I wanted to honestly say that I think Lou is relieved, to be honest. Like, the impression I get from Lou Lamoriello is not that he is pissed off. I think, when he takes over a team, he takes over a team. And this is something that he had to do. Like, he had to go all out to try to get Tavares in. He had to give him this full contract. He's a great player. There's no question about it. You want to keep him if you can, and the fans want to keep him if you can. At the same time, plays into the we're getting some echo. Sorry. This definitely plays into the aspect of Lou likes to build teams his own way, right? And now he's got to make this player. Losing this player now, if he doesn't do anything else, then this is just a bad day for the Islanders fans. But I have a feeling he's going to do something else. I don't think this is going to end here. So starting with the Islanders fans, I wanted to kind of start with them because I think they're kind of they're obviously upset. One person put it perfectly on Twitter, and I wrote about this, that she said, listen, this is just like every other. It's so perfect, she said, that midnight would just pass and Tavares would be gone. Like, because that's how it works with the Islanders. It's like how many trade deadlines today? We just sat there and 3 p.m. just passed, and that was it. And when nothing happened, it's a different story though. You have a different general manager now. You have a different coach now, and it's going to be better. I think there's hope down the line. I don't think this is as bad as it sounds. Now and then on to Toronto for a second. Every person you talked to yesterday said this was down to Toronto and the Islanders. No one to go on the record with it. Everybody kept saying this is down to Toronto and the Islanders. He doesn't want to leave the island, but he might. This is down to those two teams. But there comes a point at which, when you talk to enough people, and something like this is happening in the league that's so big, you talk to enough people that there becomes this echo chamber effect that people are talking to people and start believing it themselves. So no one knows except for Tavares where he's really going. But everyone says he's going to Toronto, right? And it was an assumption, I think, made by some people, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm really afraid, and I think that's why even like people who know that I'm hearing now are ready to go with it. Some big insiders ready to go with it are afraid to, because there's such an echo chamber on this thing that you can really get screwed. If you say he's going to the Toronto Maple Leafs right now, and he doesn't go to the Maple Leafs right now, you might as well just like throw yourself off a bridge, right? Because that just can't happen. So that's where it's at right now. And I heard, even this morning, I heard 2 or 3 teams still. I heard Tampa, San Jose, and Toronto still all possible.
I don't get the echo.
This is not over. And in New York, it's not over either. It's over for Tavares, but it's not over yet for what the Islanders are going to do.
Can you hear me?
I fully believe that, and a source told me this last night, and I'll let you guys talk, but a source told me that he thought that Lou Lamoriello would rather have Karlsson and Craig Anderson than Tavares. If you're going to spend $100 million, why not spend it that way? And now that could sound insane, but where Lou wants to come from. He does not like the superstar mold. He does not like that. He's never. I mean, look at the superstars that left New Jersey. This is the same guy who gave Niedermayer's number away in the preseason right after. This is a guy who wants things to be a certain way, and he has a success rate with it to a degree. Russ, I see you shaking.
Well, I'll let Mike go first. He had something he wanted to add first.
Well, can you hear me, guys?
Mike,
I can't hear you.
Sorry.
All right, I'll do this. Here,
mute yourself.
so if he leaves, I'm not surprised. I did try and warn people a few months ago that this is a big job, the Islanders' job. And just because it's Lou Lamoriello walking in, it didn't mean it was all going to be fixed overnight or even in a couple weeks. This is a really big job. I mean, this is something I'm not sure, even if Lou really believes, even if I heard Lou say I'd rather have Carlson and Anderson, I don't think Lou's prepared for the blowback that's going to happen if Tavares signs with any of these other teams, because it's already starting. And so now you have to deal with that first. Yeah. Then you have to deal with signing free agents. Then you have to deal with the arena. This is a big job. And this is why I said for Lou or anybody else, this wasn't going to be an easy fix for the Islanders. They're closer to being a lottery team now than they are a playoff team.
This is the problem. The problem is that the Islanders tried to play catch up in the last 3 weeks for 9 years of incompetence. And that's what it was. They drafted Tavares and they never built around him. And I'm sorry, you have to slam Charles Wong and the general manager Garth Snow for just shirking their responsibility with this bevy, with this player who's a great player, one of the best players in the league. I mean, they had their opportunity, and if he goes to San Jose or Tampa Bay or Toronto, I think Islanders fans should be mad at their organization, not mad at Lou Lamoriello for coming in a month and trying to keep him.
Mad at the organization, but he's a part of that.
Right, he has to own it because he's part of it now. But they did everything that they could. But I mean, most everything that they could. They didn't go out, and we talked about this at the draft last week, Russ. They didn't go out and get themselves a goaltender and add players because they were not sure if he was going to re-sign. And if he does re-sign, they may go the way of the rebuild. They have to, because they don't have a team without Tavares that's capable of getting to the playoffs. At least right now they don't. Peter, what do you think?
This whole thing it's the problem with focusing on guys like Tavares is it becomes all encompassing, right? Like you sort of lose your perspective on other stuff. And that's where it becomes a little goofy. Like, what do you do to fix it if you don't get them? What do you do if you do get them and you do it under the terms that you weren't really prepared to do because you got caught up in the hype? It's the danger of being. Remember when I used to say hope is not a plan? Well, I think there's a lot of hope with Tavares, and he may solve problems. That's fine. Not questioning his quality as a player, but what he does in your organization and how you have to react around it if you don't get him, that's a lot to put on hope that you can sign him when you're bidding against 5 other teams.
Yeah, and let me just say this. Nobody in Toronto right now is counting their chickens. Nobody's saying, oh, Tavares is coming to. I mean, there is right now, because we were told 2 years ago that Stamkos was coming.
Yeah, but no, this is so different than Stamkos. This is like July 1st right now. Okay, Stamkos was the 28th.
I will grant you that, but there's still that feeling out there that he could go to San Jose, he could go to Tampa Bay. Until we hear until we hear the Leafs send out a press release and say, okay, it's done, then nobody's going to believe it. I mean, right? It seems like it's on that path, but I don't get the feeling right now. There's not like euphoria in the streets. There's not people ripping down signs and jumping on. It's like right now. It's very.
What it's worth. I mean, there's euphoria on Twitter. I mean, and it should. I mean, these are human beings. I mean, I think you're taking the right attitude, Mike, as far as from a reporter perspective. But if you're a human fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs right now, you're excited. You cannot be not excited. I mean, and that's okay. I mean, that's not, yes, you might not end up there, but there's excitement. It can't happen. You can't not be excited at this point. right?
I guess he can't be not excited.
I mean, if it was my team, I would be fired up. I mean, I'm just saying that's Anthony.
I would be. I'll just let Anthony answer. I will be fired up as somebody who has covered this team because it'll make the stories so much better if Tavares is a Maple Leaf. But I know the history of this team, and once you think something is going to happen, something always happens in the other direction. So until I hear definitively he is a Maple Leaf, I will not believe it. Anthony.
Michael's not a believer. We got that. Michael's not a believer. So again, my views on this is, again, it was fascinating to watch both the Islander fan base yesterday and the Toronto fan base. It's like one on the edge of despair, the other one on the edge of madness. So you kind of describe watching both of them yesterday. And again, if you take the broad view of things for the Islanders, it isn't really the end of the world. They've had actually a pretty good, I think, an overall good month up until this point right here. Certainly, at the draft, I thought they really did well there, adding. But again, it's more of a long-term thing versus, again, with now with Tavares going, it's a bit of a setback in terms of just the overall optics of things more than anything.
Well, this is a constant drag, though, for the Islanders, Ant. Like, this is this is how it's been.
One step back. It's either two small steps forward, one big step back. It's what it feels like, and I get that. Completely understand that. That being said, again, to X's point of the distribution of salaries and everything of that sort, it would be kind of fascinating if the Islanders actually went out and got a goaltender after Tavares leaves.
No.
Like,
I think they tried
the whole time. We're ready for you to leave, John. Now we're getting the goaltender.
Yeah. And I think they tried to get Steve Mason, and I think they may have even gotten a commitment from Steve Mason. I heard somebody told me that that was going to happen. Now, I don't know whether it's going to happen or not. I was at all.
Could be a free agency, right? I mean, now Mason's free on buyout waivers.
Yeah, he was free on buyout. They had it was tricky to do. It was tricky to put together, but all they had to do was get. I mean, we've seen things that have been decided on so much sooner than noon, right? Which is coming up now. It could very easily been decided on that, and there's no question that they tried. And I will confirm. I mean, Lou will say today, because someone will ask me in the press conference, how does this feel that Tavares has left when he went out and you got Barry Trotz, and all this, you did all this stuff to try to convince him to stay. I mean, the first thing Lou will say is, I did not get Barry Trotz to convince John Tavares to stay. And most people would say that as and just be lip servicing. Lamoriello actually, you'll mean that.
Of course not, and I'm not losing my hair. I mean, come on. Give me a break.
No, he did not get Trotz to stay. I mean, it doesn't matter if Tavares was a free agent or not a free agent. Trotz is available, and Lou just takes over that team. Trotz is the coach, so it's true. I mean, he's not going to not get the best coach just because he doesn't have to win over Tavares or whatever. He's going to get the best coach he can. So that's the way he's working, right? So there's no question about that. I mean, we all sit there. You could say they got Lou to get Tavares to stay, perhaps, maybe that's a play you can make. But as far as Trotz goes,
we are joined by Jan Levine. Jan, we're just talking about the hue and cry of the Islanders fan now that they've been deserted by John Tavares. We don't know where he's going to go, but
I can actually see the pitchforks running up and down Hempstead Turnpike near my house. You forget I live 10 minutes from the Coliseum, so
yeah. I mean, we don't want to pile on Islanders fans today, guys.
Well, again, guys burning the journey and jerseys in effigy last night was a lovely touch.
There's a lot of that going on. It's the tough day to be an Islanders fan, and I feel for them. I really do.
But you could clearly tell that was a Chinese copy jersey. That was not an original. But okay, until we get more news on this, let's switch to
players. Let's talk about James Emery-Dyke, who was
right
in Philadelphia. Okay, and all those years ago, I said that Tavares was staying in Philly, and I was right. Just gonna throw that out there. I'm just kidding. One of my least favorite moments as a hockey writer came when the Tavares trade, because I was
JVR.
Right. So just a quick story. So my daughter was playing this thing called Beach Blast, which is a soccer beach tournament. And it was the draft day, and I was down at the beach with them. And I talked to somebody in Toronto, and they told me flat out that person who is now may or may not be doing something for Sportsnet said to me that that there's no way that we're making this we're gonna get JVR for Luke Shen, which is the reporter. I'd actually reported a week before that. Not gonna happen. No way, how, no way, shape, or how. So I go on. I say no way, shape, or how this is happening. I go and watch my daughter's game. My phone dies. I run back to my car, and they have traded JVR for Luke Shen. And I go back to them, and what the heck happened? And basically, the guy said, "Listen, right after I talked to you, they came back they made a better offer that we wanted along, so we ended up making the trade." So I'm happy that JVR is back in Philly, so I can put that part of my life behind me.
Well, let me ask Anthony, because Anthony and Russ cover the Flyers extensively. I mean, the signing makes sense on a number of levels, but the one that makes sense the most to me is the eventual moving or the eventual leaving of Wayne Simmons. And I wanted to get because I mean, honestly, you look at their salary structure, and you've got Giroux and Voracek, and now JVR making over $7 million a year. And I would assume Simmons on a long-term deal is going to be looking in that neighborhood. And that's a lot of money to allocate to 4 forwards. So I would think that this was sort of, let's get JVR under a controllable amount. We know him, we're comfortable with him. But Simmons is maybe asking for too much, and this guarantees we'll have somebody if Simmons decides to leave. What do you think?
I think the key is with Philadelphia and Simmons is the fact that it's not. I don't think. I think they can determine a cap charge. Where I think the concern is going to be the length of the deal. That's the concern here. That's really going to hang up things the most, I think, for Philadelphia from Philadelphia's perspective, because of Wayne's style of play. He is a physical, as physical a forward as you're going to find in the NHL. Willing to obviously to go to the front of the net, always willing to physically engage just about anybody on the ice. The other complication for Philadelphia is the fact that he is very much the guy, and he is very much a key component of their leadership core. He is the guy who can kind of get guys going if necessary, if the team is beginning, if in his estimation is beginning to slack. But again, the problem is that time and wear and tear is where Philadelphia, I think, has their greatest concern. And he had, again, a litany of injuries that he played through last year, and only one of which actually put him down for even any period of time, and that's to his credit. But at the same time, again, his style of play as he goes north of 30. That's the consideration here for Philadelphia in terms of going on deal. It's not a case that I don't think they want him back. I think they do. I think he obviously wants to be back. He said that publicly, but it's trying to find that happy medium of term and cap hit, and that's where I think things are really kind of holding things up.
And Russ,
I was gonna say, I think it was easier for Hextall to negotiate with JVR than it is with Simmons. And that's why he said at the draft he's trying to negotiate with Simmons, because we all knew it's over term. And this will either help that situation because, Simmons will lose leverage, or they'll just lose him because, he'll just say, I'm digging in here, and then Hextall will have to trade him. I
think they have to be careful with regards to their locker room mix too. He is loved in that room.
Oh, yeah.
Losing him would not go over well unless they're getting something substantial in return if they trade him.
And that is not the greatest locker room in the NHL. As far as that goes, you're so great. Guys are right about that. I mean, they need certain key players. They've lost key players before and have had issues in that room from that. I think back to when Briere left, for example, or Timonen left. They suffered for both of those guys not being in there a lot. For whatever, I mean, Giroux's a good captain, but he's not the kind of captain that runs the room. That's not his game. He is an on the ice captain. I lead by example on the ice. Simmons is more of a run the room type guy. And it's amazing because Simmons if you remember Simmons' initial thing when he was traded from LA said that he was a self-defeating guy. I remember this expression. Yeah. And he got over that. That he would just go like RJ Umberger was and still was to the end of his career, a self-defeatist. He would I stink. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't. Simmons got over that, and really has turned it around the other direction. If they can manage to keep Simmons now, though, with JVR, they end up with maybe 2 of the top 5 guys in front of the net in the NHL. Like, these are 2 of the best players that you want parked right in front of the goal.
Sure. The concern is also health-wise with – sorry, Russ.
That's okay.
Health-wise with obviously with Simmons, had surgery all season, probably not going to be 100% to start the season per se. He's still going to be in a percentage of recovery. So if they get them both, obviously, and manage to have them both, then yeah, their net front presence is going to be good. But again, JVR, good net front presence, but I think it's, again, he's not your, as we all know, not a classic power forward by any stretch of the imagination. He's a volume scorer. So I think style of play wise, it's a little bit different between the 2 of them. But it does give Philadelphia, if they have them both in line, a variety of attacks here, certainly.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, though, they could have an improved power play. They could score, 1.2 goals more a game, but they have to figure out how to give up 1.2 less goals a game, or none of these moves are going to matter. Like, that's the next biggest thing, whether it's an upgrade on defense or an upgrade in net. That's what's going to have to happen now.
Well, I mean, just a forewarning here, because there's no bigger appreciator of JVR's skills than myself. I mean, he's phenomenal down low at the side of the net. His ability to roof the puck from in close is, I don't know how many goals I've seen him score like that. But 5-on-5, he is below average. That's why his ice time was severely limited with the Leafs. His ice time, he scored 36 goals and he played 15 minutes a night. There was a reason why. It was because Babcock could not trust him 5-on-5 defensively. I heard somebody joke, the Flyers signing JVR guarantees that at least he'll be playing in the Leaf zone when he's playing Toronto, because he never played in the Leaf zone when he played for Toronto. Peter, what did you think of the JVR signing? And what do you think? What do you think? Sorry,
JVR had an incredible value contract. I mean, we just haven't seen one of those in a while for what he was producing. So I don't understand the sort of the Philly dynamic like you guys do in terms of locker room, his value to them and stuff. I think he's got a market price that's fair. I don't know if every team would do that for JVR, but I think in Philly you can sort of pull it off. I think there's reasons to think it can work. But it's a lot of money for a guy who could hit that dangerous point midway in that contract at age 32, right? Where it drops off. And it shouldn't, hopefully at that point it shouldn't hurt. Flyers will be out from underneath some other contracts. But they need some more offense and some dynamicism to their game in front of the net. I don't think they want other guys maybe taking the beating that JVR can take in front, the way he scores those dirty goals, and it changes a little bit the way their offense is. I think the curious thing that I saw on Twitter last night, because for some reason I have this odd amount of Philly traffic in my Twitter feed. I don't know why, I just do. There's a certain lady in Winnipeg who's a hardcore Philly fan, so I see a lot. She tweeted some stuff that said, if Hackstall can't make this work, that's probably the most significant change that could come for the Flyers in the next season if he can't get out of JVR what he was doing before, because that's a $35 million bet, right? On getting 30 plus goals and changing a little bit of that offense. So I think there's a little pressure that goes back to Hackstall now to make this all work. Anthony, you talked about the value of Simmons in the locker room and what that means. Look, it's no secret what Wayne Simmons is as a person and who he is. That's known everywhere. There's 30 teams that want a guy like Wayne Simmons on their team. That means you're ripping something out of Philly if you do move them. And that's a dangerous thing to do. It really is, in my opinion. Well, because he's affordable and he produces. I mean, he's the trifecta of what you want in a player. People sign Matt Hendricks for grit in the locker room, but imagine, you really want Wayne Simmons is what you want. Well, and they'll get a king's ransom if they trade him, but it comes at a cost.
Well, the interesting thing, Jan, is that there were a number of teams apparently that were in the bidding for JVR that were offering 6 and 7 years, but the amount of money that ended up going in the deal, which was 35 million, 7 million per was the amount that he was getting, or close to the amount that he was getting on a 6 or 7 year deal. And one of the rumored teams was the Rangers, which to me doesn't jive with me that they're going after a guy like JVR, just like Buffalo going after JVR. These are teams that are in rebuilds. Why are you going after a 29-year-old forward?
Well, I mean, I think the part is, and Russ and I have had lots of conversations on this, is we're still trying to define the term rebuild. How are the Rangers actually defining it? Is it a retool? Is it a rebuild? Is it a complete tear down and build back up again? If you think that JVR is going to be productive for 5 or 6 more years, and I'm not sure if the length of the term is probably where he's going to be the kind of guy where he's going to be that productive for that long. I think the Rangers' viewpoint is this year is going to be a rebuilding year, and you've seen that so far in terms of what they've done in free agency. I think next year is kind of the path back to where they hope to be. And then potentially by year 3, you're kind of hitting that point where you're really in contention potentially to win a cup. And if you're in the middle of the term for Van Riemsdyk, who is a local kid who supposedly was a Ranger fan also, similar to what they did for Shattenkirk, they want to get a guy to bring in who's a guy who wants to be there. Personally, I didn't think they were going to be in that heavily on Van Riemsdyk. I wouldn't have not gone 6 or 7 years for him either. 5 years makes a lot of sense. I mean, Philly probably paid him a bit more than he would have gotten on the AAV from everybody else. But as you said, on the flip side is what happens with Simmons now. I love Simmons. I mean, he's the kind of guy that every team likes. But if you look at the numbers he's posted, both in terms of his hits and his production, you have to be concerned about injuries and the style of play that he has. It's going to be a declining asset over the next couple of years. And that's what I think Philly's going to have to factor into the contract that may offer him. But as we've seen in free agency, teams will just throw money at guys and take the back end hit down the road.
The only thing I could say about the Rangers is if they're in on these Panarin trade talks, which I don't believe they will be, why give up assets for Artemi Panarin? Well, he will come to them in free agency. He clearly wants to play in New York. They'll pay him a king's ransom because they'll have a lot of money to spend. Why would they give up assets? That's the puzzling part about that report. So I agree with Jan. I don't think this year they're really picking up much. They might pick up, a role player here or there. I'm glad they didn't pick up Ryan Reeves because that made no sense. Leo Komarov makes a little more sense. But at the end of the day, wait until next year. Get a guy like Panarin. Let him come to you. Don't give up the assets.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of things real quick, guys. One, Kyle Bozak is going to be going back to the Oilers, which is good, I think, for the Oilers. And the other thing is that I was told that the James Neal sweepstakes is, Vegas is still involved, but the other teams are Dallas, San Jose, and Boston. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, James Neal is waiting on Tavares. For the most part, that's what you're getting. That's what I get out of that. Like there's 3 teams. I mean, Vegas is still there, and Vegas has like a 5-year, $25 million deal on the table for him from before. They might go up a little bit from that. Vegas did a great job, I think, in getting Stastny. I think that
which is what's going on with Tyler. Which is what's going on with Tyler Bozak. There's been very little news out there about Bozak, and the reason is because he's waiting on Tavares. If Tavares goes elsewhere, I think he's option B for the Leafs. Bob McKenzie's reporting Stastny 3 years at $6.5 million to Vegas. And Darren Drager reporting Thomas Hickey 4 years back to the Islanders at $10
million. It's $2.5 million for Hickey.
Yep.
All right. So I'll break down the Hickey thing. I mean, look, he's a guy who's familiar with the team. He's fine. He's never going to be great. He's never going to be terrible. He's okay, right? That doesn't really help the Islanders all that much. The Stastny thing, I really don't like this deal. I think this is a guy in decline. I get Vegas wants a veteran guy around, and he's better than Perron. But I think Vegas still even overpaid for him, too, because 3 years – in 3 years, I don't know what he's going to be like. I'm not even sure what he's going to be like in 2 years. So he'll always be good defensively and always be a good face-off guy, but they paid a lot of money for a declining guy.
Yeah, I was expecting in the $5 million range. He really didn't take a hit at all from what he did on his last 4-year deal with St. Louis. I mean, $500,000 a year, and I'm not quite sure what the state taxes are in Vegas also, but he really got a nice deal. I mean, I really thought once Winnipeg, and I'm sure Peter did also, once they made that deal yesterday, the game plan of freeing up $4.1 million in Mason is to free up the cap room to re-sign Stastny. I mean, I kind of thought it was like a done deal, definitely to go back to Winnipeg.
Also, Roman Polak is going to Dallas.
Okay. Yeah, Jen,
Is that out yet? Is that out yet? I don't know. Sorry.
needless to say, Jen, there's a lot of disappointment amongst Winnipeg fans right now. I think the belief was that if they could free the cap space, they had a they knew kind of where they were at with Stastny, and they knew what the value was. So as Darren Dreger reported that, the Jets had already gone over their sort of point of comfort, their comfort zone area. So Vegas is, and I put this out there on Twitter, I've said it in the blog, they're one of the few teams that has cap space and a legit chance to be a contender again. So it makes sense. He got his money. I mean, the amazing thing is given what Stastny's earned in his career so far, that money was that important to him. I believe the number that sort of was murmured around was around 5.5 to 5.6 from the Jets in their comfort zone. So, $500,000 more to go to Vegas. Good luck. I get it. Maybe he didn't want a Winnipeg winter, but as for Jets fans, I mean, the plus side is they needed to, Cheveldayoff needed to deal with cap space one way or the other. Like, he had to do it. I don't believe there isn't a plan B involved that might be a bigger sort of, Stastny was the path of least resistance and the logical one, but there might be another option at play here, and where the Jets could take back that kind of salary if they trade someone. So, and someone could be Tyler Myers. I'm just spitballing here. I don't know any inside information. I just think the Jets are so methodical in their approach and how they do things: plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D.
But
that could be something there.
You feel like this capped them out, this priced them out, that 6.5.
Yeah. I understand it. That's too dangerous for where they're going.
Right.
I mean, part of it also is the Brian Little contract is really what's hamstringing you guys now.
The Little contract that was signed last fall is now making a mess of things for them. So there's a lesson here for GMs. Don't pay for loyalty before you have to, and don't be loyal before you have to. But also think about this. Given what Vancouver's paying guys right now, imagine what Brian Little could have got on the open market.
I mean, the Vancouver money is just stupid. It really is stupid. I mean, Antoine Roussel. No, is it confirmed? Antoine Roussel over $3 million.
I think it's $3.2 million for 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I like Antoine Roussel.
Interested in Patrick Maroon. 6 teams. Figure that one out.
Yeah.
Buy it silly season, Russell.
Yeah.
So I write my blog every year, free agency, aka the silly season.
Well, okay, and just to, I mean, Peter, do you think that there is more moves to come regarding the Jets clearing more salary? Because if Myers is in play, I can think of one team in Southern Ontario that would really be interested in a right-hand shot defenseman with 1 year left in his contract.
Yeah, I have no idea what that looks like. If, say, they did have a conversation, say it's there. First of all, I think the Jets are going to, that deal expands between trading a future UFA defenseman for what the Leafs would want to return. So what the Jets want, they need to add more to that UFA defenseman, right? I just think that's how it works. They're going to want some certainty going forward because they're dumping someone and they got to fill hole. I just think it's not as simple as like a 1-for-1 of sort of a bottom 9 kind of forward from the Leafs. I think it's got to be a little more significant. I'm not sold that there isn't another Western team who's had chats with the Jets about this. But again, I don't really know anything. It's just one of those weird sort of guessing things, because there's been one Western Conference team that's been way too quiet.
Now, I have to, while there's a little lull here before noon, I have to take credit for winning the contest. I deserve cookies here. I deserve many cookies because I predicted Carter Hutton was going to sign for around $3 million, and the deal that he signed with Buffalo is for under $3. So give me my cookies.
Isn't that like the standard rate now for goalies? Did Grubauer get 3 years?
I thought he would get more, Jan. I thought
3 years, $9 million.
I'm gonna throw one of my favorite tweets on the internet, and he used a different word, but this is just hilarious. Someone just sent me this as a text. An Islanders fan tweeted out, "We've been screwed by Tavares. We might as well get a hickey." Come on, that's good. All right.
Well, yeah. Well, okay, but
Here's the other one,
let's
too. I mean, look, if you're going to get a cookie, sure, give me one for saying Mike Green's going back to Detroit, but I think that was a no-brainer. Like, they didn't have a choice. They
There's
had
a lot of talk right now, by the way, and I just got 3 texts about it that Tavares to Leafs will be announced for the afternoon. We'll see.
We'll see.
okay.
We'll
see.
Are you happy getting Hutton, and do you think he's actually an upgrade over Robin Lehner?
Well, I see. I don't. With the Buffalo situation is Allmark is going to be the number 1, and I think they got Hutton.
Okay, hold on. Tyler Bozak is going to St. Louis. Just told this.
For Bob McKenzie.
Okay, that I'll tell you right now. That means Tavares is a Leaf, because I think Bozak. I was in a scrum with him. He really wanted to come back to Toronto, and if he's not, to my mind, that's indicative of the fact that they said, go ahead, sign someplace else. We've got our guy.
Hey, Peter, let me ask this. Does Winnipeg have anything where they could deal with Buffalo eating some salary and O'Reilly ending up in Winnipeg as the number 2 center?
Yeah, they could. Absolutely. It's going forward where it becomes a problem. I think they need to. They somehow have to take O'Reilly, and I don't know. I know he's $7.5 million, and there's some bonus money that's paid out, but they'd have to have Buffalo taking about probably $2 million of that. I don't know about Buffalo.
It's too late.
What?
Yeah,
Today.
Yeah,
right. The sign. He's a.
No. It's forward, right?
It's
No,
today.
it said it can be paid anytime July 1st, is according to what everybody's reporting.
Yeah.
Not midnight. It's midnight. It's at 11:59 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, that was just Jan's right.
Okay.
I love how we hear one thing from one person and one thing from another person. It drives me insane.
It's reading cap semantics.
But okay, look.
Facts are for the losers. Come on, we don't need facts. We're just trying to figure this thing out.
Thank you very much.
In emergencies.
And anyone else? I think the worst signing so far today is Perron, but David Perron by the Blues for $16 million for 4 years. I think that's insane.
They know him, Mac. They know him,
and
he scored
more insane to me.
And he scored 66. He scored 66 points last year. That's why. I mean,
that's with
Let's just go back to Detroit for a second, because again, I'm going to be very critical of Kenny Holland here. How many old, over the hill guys can you get? They bring back Vanek on a 1-year deal. They bring in Jonathan Bernier. From what I'm looking at, who's going to be the number 1 once Jimmy Howard's contract is up after next year, unless they plan on re-signing Howard. Who else? They re-signed Mike Green. Gee, what is this? 2010?
Guys, one quick bit of news: Bozak is getting $5 million a year AAV.
$5 million.
Yep, that's the center market, baby. He's the 3rd best center.
Yeah, but here's the thing with getting back to,
by the way, for Bozak, 3 years, so it'll be $15 million.
That's fine. That's a decent deal. I don't kill him on that. Going back to Holland, look, that's a 2-year-old building. He's got to keep filled. He's got to bring in some names. He can't just have the totally stripped down team in a market like Detroit. He can't. So that's why he's doing what he's doing, Mike, because at least these guys will produce and keep his team at least interesting to watch while they're going through these changes.
Hey, Russ, let me ask you now. I know our team, at least my team, has a ton of RFAs. What do you think Kevin Hayes is thinking, looking at this dollars going out for free agent centers in the marketplace?
I mean, look, he had 25 goals. I don't know if you get to point out if they were bad 25 goals, because I think some of those were bad 25 goals. But at the end of the day, he's going to come out with a decent deal if the Rangers go through with doing that. I still think they're going to try and trade him. I do. I would be surprised if he plays for David Quinn. He doesn't seem like a David Quinn kind of guy.
Well, just a little note. Dan Milstein, the agent who represents a lot of Russians, apparently was shooting down rumors of Nemestikov going back to the KHL. Said it's not true, but I have a feeling that's sort of a shot across the bow here. Basically, like, I got 4 points in 20 games with the Rangers. If you're not going to use me, get rid of me and send me someplace where they can use me.
Well, works for me.
You know, it doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. You know what? Alain Vigneault totally misused the guy. He has a lot of talent, and now they're in a position where the new coach has no idea what this guy can do. There's no real video for him to watch because Vigneault stuck him on the fourth line with lousy players. This was a good acquisition of a player that they have killed the value of.
Figure out what that is. Sorry, guys.
That doesn't work for me.
I'm gonna mute people 1 second. Just all right. Maybe it was. All right, Russ, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, it sounded like maybe it's either Anthony or Jan. So check if your cell phone is too close to your computer. Maybe that's something. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, it did sound like a cell phone.
And you can unmute yourselves. Unmute yourselves.
Nemestikov
Real quick.
player. He can.
Just told that Calvin DeHaan is on the Flyers radar.
Well, he's been on the Flyers radar.
Say that again.
Calvin DeHaan is on the Flyers radar big time. So I'm not sure whether. I mean, we talked about him being on the radar before, but
he's also on Toronto's radar, and I think that he's buddies with Tavares and what their need on defense.
He would go wherever Tavares went to, and that's possible.
It is possible.
Hey, Russ, let me get back to you on the Nemesnikov thing. So I'll agree with you to the extent he was misused by Vigneault, but at a certain point in time, that argument only holds so much water. I don't think he played particularly well other than the goal and the assist he had his first game against Vancouver. I always felt he was a product of his line mates, and granted, anybody would be, playing with Stamkos and playing with Kucherov. And if he's expecting JT Miller type money, I'm not going to that term, both in terms of dollars and years for him.
I don't think he would expect that. And I do think you still have to be able to be a decent player to play with those guys. You do.
Agreed. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying you want to give him a bridge deal or a 2-year deal or whatever.
Yeah, give him a bridge deal and see what he can do. Yeah.
That's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not giving him a long-term deal.
No,
based on
I'm not talking long-term.
Okay, let's just talk about the goal. Let's talk about the goaltending merry-go-round that's been going on here. Khudobin goes to Dallas. Halak goes to Boston. Carter Hutton goes to Buffalo. Apparently, Cam Ward is going to Chicago on a 1-year deal, and Bernier going 3 years to Detroit. Does any of those moves? I mean, what do you think is the best, and what do you think is the worst? Peter, you first.
Sorry, say that again. I was just reading a message from someone. Sorry.
The goaltending merry-go-round. What do you think was the best move out there, and what do you think the worst one was? I mean, I'll give you mine first. I think the worst one was Bernier 3 years to Detroit. It's insane. I think Cam Ward for 1 year in Chicago is not bad. It's only 1 year.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested in seeing how Michael Hutchinson does in Florida. Tell you the honest truth, he had a career year in the AHL last year, was lighting it up. He came in and did decent for the Jets when needed. The relationship kind of soured a bit, and he took a 2-year deal to Florida, I believe, $1.3 million. So he got a $300,000 raise. That's going to be very interesting because it now puts the Jets in a position where they have to think about how much they're spending on a backup goalie, and would they even come back around and take Steve Mason at $1.5 million, which would make him exactly with his buyout, exactly what he earned last season with the Jets. It's kind of interesting. I don't really know. To be honest, I haven't followed the goaltending market that closely because there's just been other things to think about, particularly from a Winnipeg thing. And I think backup goalies, they'll find someone. I could see them taking a shot on about 5 or 6 guys at around $1 million range to keep cap safe. But probably I'm going to be curious about Hutchinson working with Luongo. Could be very interesting.
I'll give you. Yeah, I didn't like the Bernier. I will tell you that the two best I thought were Budaj back to the Kings and Domingue getting re-signed for $1.15 for 2 years. So it's $1.15 per year for Tampa. That is a bargain for a pretty good goalie that I felt like just got shuffled around in Arizona. And Tampa came out the winner on that one.
Yeah, I would concur on that. But yeah, I mean, to me, the Bernier signing at 3 years was a surprise. I did not expect him to get that much term from Detroit. That to me was just, when I saw that, I was like, I expected maybe 1, 2 years, 2 years at max. 3 years was definitely a surprise in my mind in that circumstance. But I do genuinely like the Hutchinson signing for Florida. I really do. I think it's a smart, cagey move by the Panthers.
I agree.
I'm very curious to see what happens with Mason again, and no question right now. I'm after he got really, when the trade happened yesterday, it was a stunner. In terms of the deal, we knew they were was clearing space out, but the first thought was Montreal and Steve Mason. And then immediately the report was almost in a matter of minutes that they were already shopping him, and now he's available in free agency. So I'm curious to see where this is going to end up. I could see Ottawa, although it'll be an interesting situation there. The Islanders is another spot as well. If Mason goes to Ottawa, does Anderson then get moved to the Islanders? It's going to be interesting as the go-around goes.
Well, I thought it was funny that, and I'm not disputing what you were saying, Ak, but you could find about 50 goaltenders that would be more convincing in terms of making a case to Tavares to stay in the island, saying Steve Mason's coming to the island. Oh boy, you just had Greiss and Halak. There's not much of there's not a ton of an upgrade there.
I mean, listen. I mean, Mason had injury issues last year, but if he's playing all the time, it made no sense that Mason would be in Montreal, because as a backup, Mason would be horrendous. That's what I was first saying about but I will say that I thought he was going to be okay on the Islanders. The one name I'm looking at now is Riley Nash as well, who is another player, a third line center. The Canucks are tied to. The Flyers are also in on him too, so it's another possibility there. Be interesting. The Flyers do have more money still to spend.
They're not going to spend it all this year, though.
They're not going to spend it all this year, but
and you have to take into account trade market too. Potentially, there may be money coming in, money going out. I think trade could very well be just as much of a likely route here than them splashing out. I really actually think this may be the biggest outlay. The JVR deal is probably the biggest outlay that they're going to make. I'm going to say they're out on Dahan. I think they're definitely in on Dahan. It just, with that much competition potentially for them, you have to really be smart with regards to the money you're potentially outlaying there, especially if you might have an option for a defenseman through trade. So that's one of the things we have to take a look at there.
Yeah. No question about it.
One thing that's a little interesting in terms of a domino effect here is the Bozak signing and what that means for the trade talk regarding Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, it was supposedly hot and heavy. But maybe with the bonus being paid, the Sabres are saying, you know what, we're not going to trade him now. We paid 80% of his salary. We'll keep him for the year and trade him next summer.
It hasn't been paid yet, right? Apparently, they have till the end of the day. What they say.
But I'm saying from the St. Louis point of view, St. Louis was the team that was the most interested, supposedly. I mean, all the rumors were tied to St. Louis and to a lesser
Montreal.
And to a lesser extent, Montreal, yes.
I mean, I have never put him on the rumor chart this year out of principle, because I never thought he was going to get traded. It's the funniest thing. I don't know why. I never do that, but this is one player. I just felt like when I talked to people that, first of all, that signing bonus was ridiculous, and then what they were asking for him was absolutely absurd. So I just felt like he wouldn't get traded. We'll see, but I still don't think he's going to get traded. I really don't. I only got Anthony Duclair to the Rangers, possibly. I heard about that. Possibly the Rangers circling back on Anthony Duclair.
I mean, now that Vigneault's out, it would make sense. I mean, that certainly would be a good signing for him, but we'll see. I'm not totally convinced that's going to happen, but it's a good signing if it could happen.
What do you think, Jan?
I mean, you have to wonder, he's worn out his welcome in a couple of different organizations, obviously here in New York, and granted, Vigneault's not there anymore. You can say this thing about Arizona. He also went to Chicago. There's been issues, at least the rumors, in terms of character and effort. But again, if you can get a guy like that at a quote-unquote cheap rate, it would not be a bad idea bringing him in for maybe a 1 year, $1.2, $1.4 million deal, maybe a make or break type of contract in an up-tempo system that may suit his style of play. But I don't know if he's their number one priority, but given where they seem to be going in free agency this year, it could be one of the few that they end up signing. And by the way, guys, as I put in the thing, if you guys aren't following Michael Grabner on Twitter today, he's been awesome. Obviously, there's been a lot of teams interested. He wrote, well, folks, I have agreed to a deal. Some details to still be worked out, though. I'm taking out the garbage at least once a week, and my wife will let me go play golf without getting mad. So,
he's hitting the net
good today.
He's hitting the net on his tweets. Unfortunately, he doesn't do it on breakaways. David Pagnotta.
I think he did enough of it in New York for 2 years. Thank you very much.
Yes, I know. I'm just talking about his year with the Leafs. So we have to thank him because he missed them. The Leafs got Austin Matthews. So thank you very much, Michael Grabner. David Pagnotta is reporting the Islanders were in on David Perron, but fell short. Apparently, they didn't want to pay the $4 million. But they have made inquiries regarding Ryan O'Reilly. So I don't know. I mean, Russ, it all depends on whether Sabres are convinced that Middlestead can play center. If they want him to play center at age 19,
I think
it makes sense.
They're convinced. I happen to think they're convinced he can. I'm convinced he can. I think I would do that.
So Dante Fabro is returning to Boston University for, I think it's his junior year, correct?
Yeah, it seems right.
Yeah, I mean, not that that's any kind of. I mean, I'm just going through some of the notes here. That's not that that's any kind of great revelation, but we're talking about he's 1 year away from being another Jimmy Vesey situation in terms of Nashville. I'm sure they want to get him locked up as soon as they possibly can and not lose him, right?
So I got to mention this. There's a report out there that the Rangers are interested in this Carlson Bobby Ryan thing. I highly doubt that they're going to take Bobby Ryan just to get Carlson. Do I think they have interest in Carlson? Sure. Do I think they're really going to take Bobby Ryan and sort of have this be one of those situations where they're just they're just taking a player for a salary because they can? Ranger fans are not going to be thrilled with that. I don't think that that's going to happen. I would be very surprised if that's the combination, if that were to happen.
Well, unless Carlson is signing a long-term extension right this minute, making a deal like that makes absolutely no sense at all.
Yeah.
None. Nonsense. Also, one bit of news, according to Mark Lazarus, supposedly Chris Kunitz is in discussions potentially going to Chicago. And Chris Kukit tweeted that Kunitz's wife is from Chicago. So definitely a connection there to potentially look for.
He's one of the more overrated guys.
Yep, I agree.
He's working off reputation, Chris Kunitz.
Got 4 cups, so he fits well with that team, though.
Yeah, and Chicago's getting.
So how does that help them?
and Chicago's getting younger here.
Yeah,
I mean, if the one thing they need to do is get younger and get faster. And here's an older guy who in the Eastern Conference Final looked like he was trailing the play. He didn't seem like he could keep up.
I think. Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing with Kunitz is again. He's going to be, as you said, kind of carrying that Pittsburgh reputation with him, certainly. I was pretty underwhelmed with him last year in Tampa. I figured it was a perfect up-tempo team. They could, in that circumstance, and just very underwhelming in the times that I saw him play. So, I'm up to that.
Now,
Pittsburgh,
Russ,
Pittsburgh back, but
yeah.
Russ, here's one that'll interest you. Apparently, the Golden Knights are close to agreeing to a multi-year deal with Nick Holden.
Look, I mean,
had that one for a while. That's true.
I think it was telling that Nick Holden was sort of used regular season by Boston and not much in the playoffs. Now, I know he did have an injury for a little while. Look, this is just Vegas Golden Knights filling in because they've got a mixture of defensemen there, and so Holden does have the offensive capability to get 5 to 10 goals. That's fine, whatever.
Elliot Friedman's reporting 3 years. Sorry, 3 years.
Going to Colorado.
That's the one I was just saying.
yeah.
That was him? Okay, there you go. I beat him. I didn't beat him, I guess. Tobias Ryder's another other one too. So Ian Cole to Colorado, that's a steal for Colorado. Ian Cole is like the
not at $4.25 million. That's a little pricey.
For Ian Cole.
Colorado needs that badly. It makes sense for Colorado to do this. Ian Cole is a guy who's proven he can play in up-tempo systems like Colorado has. Colorado's system, they're like a Penguins type system. it makes sense.
Yeah, and again, I know Philadelphia there'd been some talk that and free agent options that Ian Cole would have been an option potentially for Philadelphia, but certainly not at that cap at 4.25. That's a little high for what I think for what they would have offered. I think they probably could have done the years, but not that. They could have done the term. I don't think they could have done the AAV at that number.
That's a big number. If you already have it.
This is what happens now, though. Teams that are desperate for positions, that have money in free agency, have to overspend, and they're overspending today.
As they do every year.
We're
And
11,
you know
we're 11,
what?
guys.
This happens, and we know it happens.
11:58, almost 11:59 right now. Tobias Reader, he's another one I keep following too. I keep hearing Vancouver. I heard Vegas, but Holden going to Vegas, that might mean Reader's going to Vancouver. And we talked a lot about him when he was traded. I'm a big fan of his. Edmonton is also in on him, so I wonder if Edmonton still could be on him for all I know, but that's I keep hearing Vancouver right now.
One more, according to Elliot Friedman, Dallas is about to sign Blake Como.
Okay.
And also one thing on the Colorado thing. So the thing to also keep in mind, while Colorado has a ton of cap room, Mikko Rantanen is going to be getting a huge deal in about a year or so. So they need to make sure they keep plenty of money to sign that guy.
I'll say this. Metro fans are happy Blake Como's in Dallas. He's annoying to them.
Yep.
No, I have
Ross, there was some talk as well about Philadelphia goes in the free agency overpaying for Blake Como just because he's a Metro killer.
He is. You
guys got Calvert in Colorado as well, right?
Who?
Calvert.
Matt Calvert.
Is it 3.23? That's actually not a bad signing for 3 years. Given what the rumors were going to be, I thought it was going to be much higher.
Calvert to Colorado, you said?
Yep.
Yeah, 2.4.
Yeah, that makes. Yeah, I have to say this: the news over the last 2 or 3.
2.8 per.
The news over the last 2 or 3 days regarding some of the defensemen that have been signed. The 2019 bevy crop of defensemen is not going to happen because already Doughty's locked up, Yarmolson's locked up, Ekman Larsson's locked up, McDonough is in talks with Tampa Bay. It's the way it's going. Jake Gardner is going to be your number one defenseman on that market.
By the way, I agree. Did we know that Hickey was a 4-year deal? That's a lot of years to give Thomas.
Yeah, it's 4 years. It was a 4-year deal at 2.5.
I don't care about
that term is where it's at 2.5. So
for who, Hickey?
Hickey 4 years? No way.
Well, that follows up with Mayfield getting, what did he get, 6 years or 5 years? I mean, it was a low cap hit, but they seem to want to lock up these bottom pairing or 4, 5, 6 defensemen for long term. I don't get it.
Heck, you're ringing the 12 o'clock bell to signal trading has officially started?
Yep. Ding.
There we go.
They're underway.
It's maybe the worst opening bell for any
3 years, 2.4 million per for Como. Wow.
Yeah.
That's just. I'm sorry. I'd rather have Roussel at his money than Como at his money.
I would love to be Blake Como's agent if that's possible. I would do that.
Well, the James Van Riemsdyk deal is official. It's just that it was Flyers all of 30 seconds to make it.
Everything
shocking.
This is the worst kept secrets of the trading deadline. We have like 15 trades that we've all known about before it actually opened.
I really think the NHL has shot themselves in the foot, and I bet you anything. Yeah, that Sportsnet and TSN are
Zach Patel to Vegas.
I mean, again, Fucale, it's good that he's getting an extra look. There was a lot to him a couple of years ago. Maybe he can get it back. They have to build depth in that organization. They went through a lot of goalies last year, so it makes sense.
By the way, Kunitz officially to Chicago. Cam Ward got $3 million for 1 year.
That's smart. That's a good signing.
Yeah, especially after what they went through last year.
Here you go. Mike Green, 5.375 for 2 years to Detroit. Eddie Lack, 1 year, $650,000 from New Jersey. Brandon Peary, 1 year, $650,000 with Vegas. Dalton Prout 1 year, one way for $800,000 with Calgary. Ryan Reeves, we knew about. Yarmulson, 2 years, $10 million extension with Arizona.
Okay.
And then Van Riemsdyk. Like I said, that 2019 free agent defense class. I mean, you thought Yarmulson might
just signed with the Chicago Blackhawks with a 2-year deal. So the former Flyer defenseman is moving on to the Chicago Blackhawks.
Brandon Manning.
Brandon Manning is signed 2 years with the Blackhawks. They just made it. Hawks just.
Why would Chicago give Cam Ward a full no trade clause?
Because this is probably his last year of his career, and he doesn't want to move.
All right.
It's a 1-year deal on
$2.75 million for 2 years each. $2.75 million each for 2 years.
That's fine. I mean, that doesn't kill you. The thing is, look, the Manning thing's interesting because there was a report that the Flyers were going to re-sign him for 2 years, then it went away, and so he did get 2 years. He got it from Chicago. He could play a little bit. I'm happy for Brandon Manning. I think he's deserving of being in the league, and I think he could actually help Chicago. So that's a pretty good signing for them. Unfortunately, that's the kind of money they have to spend. Like they have to do it that way.
I mean, I just think the defensive prices in a very average defensive market are. I mean, at this rate, probably Calvin DeHaan's going to get $4.5 million a year.
Well, let's think about one thing real quick. It's interesting, and I'm trying to. Because we're going to see all these deals happen, and by 12.
Hang on, the Bruins signed. This one's a surprising one. Yarrow Halak for 2 years, $5.5 million.
Yeah, that is not that I heard earlier. That's crazy.
That's crazy. They basically went for Halak from Khudobin to Halak for more money. I don't get that.
What's going to be fun about this is by 12:30 or so, we're going to have almost everyone significant signed, right? And then we're going to have the trades, because that's honestly how this is going to play out. Like there's a lot of teams sitting around waiting to make trades. For example, Jeff Skinner is sitting out there, right? And so the Blues got Bozak. You got to go through like the teams who are looking to add offense, right? The Blues get Bozak. The Bruins, they need to do something else besides that, obviously. So Carolina's just foaming at the mouth. Like the Bruins, the Canadians, two teams that have to do something. And, Skinner's going to look pretty good for.
Tim Schaller, 2 year, $3.8 million for Vancouver, which is a little surprising. He's a decent fourth-line guy, but we're talking almost $2 million a year.
Got a lot of
contract structure for JVR's contract. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much, so it's for the total of 5 years. The Flyers will be paying $7 million salary for the next 2 seasons with a $1 million. Every season will have a $1 million bonus. 2020 to 2022, those 2 seasons will be a $6 million bonus. $6 million salary. And then the last year of the deal in 2022-2023, it will be a $4 million salary. So there's the total structure. So the first 2 years of the deal are at $7 million. Every year's got a $1 million bonus to it.
Right.
So the next 2 seasons, $7 million. The 3 years, 3 and 4, $6 million. Last year, $4 million.
And he doesn't have a no trade or no
trade or no move protection. Did not get that in the deal.
That is shocking in a way. I mean, if you're thinking
he didn't get what?
A no trade or no move.
No protection.
Hey, the Jack Johnson numbers just came up.
But think about JVR for a second.
5 years,
JVR, and you have traded by this team already. Okay, now you're going there. You're signing back with them in a marketplace that's like crazy. There's a lot of people after you, and you can't get a no trade clause out of it. That's pretty shocking to me.
Because he got $7 million, that's why. He probably could have got a no trade or no move if he would have taken less. Now, Peter, what was it for Jack Johnson?
I was going to say Jack Johnson, 5 years, 16.5, 3.25 with Pittsburgh.
That's the Sidney Crosby buddy rate in Pittsburgh for defensemen.
And Jack Johnson's basically terrible. He's so bad that he doesn't even stick to his name because you can't believe he's that bad.
The Derek Ryan contract is official. 3 years, $3.125 million per year. He rejoins Bill Peters in Calgary.
Who is that, Jen?
Derek Ryan's deal's official.
Okay.
3 years, $3.125 million per year. Rejoins Bill Peters in Calgary.
All right.
Well, here on the Leaf page, Roman Polak gets 1.3 million for 1 year with Dallas, and according to some in the analytics crowd, that's 1.3 million too much. The Thomas Plekanec deal with Montreal, 1 year, 2.25 million with bonuses can go up to 3.5. That bonus is for basically allowing his I think he had a no trade clause, allowing himself to be traded to Toronto to steal a second round pick for nothing.
Mike, because I'm having fun on Twitter right now just to try and see how Jets fans react to silly things. If Tavares ended up going to the Sharks, would the Leafs offer Thornton something to just get him in and be another center down the line?
Hold on, one more thing, guys. This is a big one.
Whoa.
Brendan Clack, Ryan McDonough, 7-year deal, $6.75 million cap hit.
There you go.
That's a good number.
To answer your question, Peter, I think the Leafs would, but it's been communicated that Thornton is basically amenable to almost any amount to stay in San Jose, even if they do sign Tavares, a fourth-line center if necessary. He just wants to stay in Northern California. He's not interested in going and play anyplace else. So it sounds like he's going to stay there. And, so I would have thought it would have been a viable option with his history with Babcock and Marleau being there, but apparently it's a non-starter.
Yeah, the McDonough contract is official. Tampa Bay just tweeted it out as well.
Not shocked at all.
That's not shocked. A guy with that much mileage on him, and look, you guys know I'm a huge McDonough fan. 7 years is a lot of years at that dollars.
I'm going to be very interested.
He's not old either.
Something to look out for now is if Matt Duchene signs his extension in Ottawa, because it's the lesser known of the two big coming through. Matt Duchene, they've got to get Duchene done.
This is the position that Ottawa's in right now, to get these guys to sign with a train wreck of an organization the way they're going right now. They're going to have to overpay. They're going to have to overpay Duchene. They're going to have to overpay Mark Stone. I don't think Carlson's going to sign. I mean, right now, why would anybody sign with that organization when they have a chance to go free and hit the open market?
I think I got something here. Mike's going to be very upset, but Thomas Plekanec's going back to the Habs, 1 year, $2.25 million.
I said that one already. I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken at the second round pick the Leafs gave up for him for 17 games and 2 assists.
Get over it, Mike.
This is the business they've chosen.
Gonna have to get over that.
Yeah.
By the way, Russ, he'll be 30 years old when that contract starts, by the way.
I put everything in terms of.
I still would give it to him. I mean, it's a little higher than I'd like for per year, but I'm okay with it for McDonough.
I put everything in terms of will I still be paying for my children's colleges? That's what I'm doing now.
The deal just rolled in. Joakim Nordstrom, 2-year deal with the Bruins. Was that already mentioned already?
No.
Yeah, Nordstrom's a $2 million AAV, so it's a 2-year, $4 million contract.
So here's the deal with Nordstrom. So I have this fantasy league where he was one of these guys that I kept extending every year. He was so bad last year all around that I can't even imagine why he would get a 2-year deal. I'm surprised he's even in the NHL this year, to be honest. Like, he barely had a role with Carolina when things were done.
Chris Kunitz got $1 million for 1 year, so he basically took the Patrick Sharp veteran discount to go to Chicago.
Nikushkin is official in Dallas. That's not a big surprise.
No.
And also the Greg Paterno contract is official also. 1.75 this year, 2.25 mil next year, 2.75 the year after, 3 years, 2.25 AAV.
I'm a little puzzled at some of the Wild. They added Matt Hendricks and Greg Paterno, not exactly like impact moves.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But I think that after years of just first round or second, you would think that Fenton might come in and do something to shake up things a little bit. And these are just like character guys you're adding as third, fourth line guys and fifth, sixth defenseman. It's not exactly.
Here's a signing.
I
Here's
mean,
a signing.
with the exception of the Hutchinson thing, Florida has been incredibly quiet too.
Yeah.
And I still believe that is because they're going to be making the play for Pacioretty shortly. So
Here's your signing for Edmonton. No terms yet, but Mike Russo saying Kevin Gravel's going there. Listen, Gravel's a pretty good defenseman. Like that again, he is a guy that with the Kings was going to get a chance, and then he had either an injury or a sickness. I want to say he had some sort of sickness for a little while and got over that. He's a pretty good bottom pair defenseman, but the Edmonton's loaded with those guys. So there you go.
Matthew has signed with the Canadians. You got that? You guys get that one yet?
Here's an interesting thing.
Tampa Bay press release when they signed McDonough. The language says Lightning re-signed defenseman Ryan McDonough to contract extension. The next line is cornerstone defenseman commits to Tampa Bay for 7 years. I just find the language interesting.
Yeah. Well, you look at the way the deal breaks down, Jan. Break down 8.4, 5.4, 8.4, 5.4, 8.4, 6.93, 4.2. All salary, no signing bonuses.
Going to make it hard to move him unless they move him in, even if they move him in an odd year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
But you're still coming back every other year. You got 8.4.
Yeah, but the teams have gotten wise now in terms of lock. The teams have gotten wise now in terms of lockout protection because all these players have been trying to get signing bonuses front loaded for those 2 years where there's a potential lockout, and now what players are doing are taking heavy salary instead of signing bonuses. One way or the other, they're getting their money.
So the two guys that Rangers dealt, McDonough and Miller.
Yep.
Yeah, Miller was 5.25 for 5 years, and a lot of people question that one as like how can Tampa Bay be in on Tavares if they paid JT Miller $5.25 million, and the talk was that they were going to trade Tyler Johnson, but I think it's more the fact that they could trade Miller if they needed to.
I think what Tampa's telling you is they're out of Tavares. I think that's what they're telling.
That is what that is. And I heard I just talked to somebody who I trust in Toronto who says that Tavares is a Maple Leaf, but we'll see.
Here's the funny thing. Is he even going to say anything today on Canada Day? He might not.
Oh, come on.
He might not.
I think he will.
Jesus Christ. How much longer do we have to friggin' wait?
The reports like a couple minutes ago that he's at Dubas's house. Like that's what I've heard too.
Well, have you checked his grandmother's account? I mean, she would know. She might have made some meatballs.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a big one. Sabres signed Scott Wedgwood for a 1-year deal at $650K.
He's a good goaltender. I like him at the AHL level.
That's good.
He did right?
Yeah, yes. We're waiting for Grandma Dubas to do a D5 and saying that it's a lock.
Right.
That
He hasn't posted yet. She hasn't posted.
Jonathan Bernier, 3 years, $9 million, $3 million per. What a joke!
Oof. That's all
Honestly,
that contract.
I look at Detroit right now, and with the additions that they made, where have they moved the ball? Vanek, Bernier, and the return of Mike Green. They're still a team that's going to finish 6th or 7th in the Atlantic Division. There's not a lot there. I don't get these teams who clearly should be in a rebuild posture, and they continue to just add on veteran players, thinking that it's going to put them in, vault them into the playoffs. They're just not good.
This is per Scott Powers, not Detroit related, but Chicago related, that the Blackhawks are likely done with any signings and trades for today, as sources told him. So it's not that the Hawks got what they wanted and they're out now.
So they added youth with those young players, Kunitz and Ward.
They got the back.
Forget Brent Manning. He's still relatively young.
When I just said that, I just got a text from a friend of mine. Okay, when I said to Toronto, he says, "Well, San Jose hasn't done anything yet today." That's a good point.
All right, so here's something funny, okay? I have to say this. So Rick Carpinello just tweeted because I'm not getting the Sportsnet feed, right? And apparently Doug McClain doesn't think Ryan McDonough's a great skater. It's like I think Doug needs to watch Ryan McDonough a little bit more because his skating's pretty good. You're not a top pairing D-man in this league if you can't skate well. Like, come on, really? Is this where we are today?
I have it on in the background, but I don't have the volume up, obviously. So I just
Now you don't need to because it's ludicrous.
That's what the mute button is. That's what the mute button is made for.
Burke was phenomenal during the draft. You guys didn't get a chance to see it because you guys were there, but Burke was so good during the draft.
Yeah.
He's really good on these panels. He just doesn't he doesn't care. And oh my gosh, he's got some just awesome expressions that he uses.
No, I agree with that.
One quick thing on the McDonough deal. So if you think about it, Russ, in New York, that's what, $7.5 million per year based upon state tax?
Yeah, probably.
And you cannot accurately look at McDonough and his quality as a player based on last year and in the playoffs because I mean we all know he was playing hurt. We all know that he was struggling with whatever injury it was. I mean, honestly, I know that Toronto was in on him, or at least they tried to be in on him. They weren't willing to pay what Tampa did. But if McDonough had been added to the Leafs defense, that would have been a dramatic improvement.
So here's
Hey,
a good
Florida news. They just signed RFA Jared McCann to a 2-year deal.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is a really good signing because, again, you get a 22-year-old that you had who had 28 points. Look, was he rushed to the league? Yes. Vancouver rushed him. But end of the day, he's a guy that you probably can get 35, 40 points out of. And that is, again, he's 22 years old, so you still are developing him. This is a good signing for Florida. Like, this is the kind of signing that is smart.
Yeah. No, there are reports out there, and I was just texted the same thing that I got this text from an agent who said that the agent said that he was trying to get one of his players signed by the Maple Leafs, and he was going discussions with Maple Leafs for the last couple of days. And the Maple Leafs just told him last night, forget about it. We don't have enough money to do it. So that's an interesting thing because it's not like saying anything, but it is saying something at the same time.
Well, okay, that's a fallacy because even if
this is what they said.
Wait. Let me just. Even if they sign Tavares to the 1-year max deal, which is $15.9 million,
that's not going to happen.
I know, but I'm just let me finish. If they sign for 15.9, the Leafs have 25 million in cap space. They have plenty of cap space, so maybe they just weren't interested in the player because they were going in a different direction.
I told you who the player. They were definitely interested in this player, but it definitely has.
Okay.
And this is not the only report of that. I mean, these are just clues, for what it's worth. And who knows, that's just a clue. It's funny every time in these shows, I've got Sportsnet over there, I got TSN over there, but both with the sound down. Every time they show Tavares on TSN or Sportsnet, it's always scoring on Peter Mrazek. Like, it's hilarious. Just it's scoring on the Flyers. It's always Tavares scoring the same goal on the Flyers time and time again. It's very fun. So the Flyers will be happy that Tavares is out of the division. At least they'll be thrilled. There's no question about that.
I think a lot of teams will be thrilled. I did see that Xavier Ouellet got signed by Montreal to a 2-way deal. That's a pretty good signing, but I don't know where his foot speed is at these days. That's probably why he hasn't been able to emerge as an NHLer. But he's a guy who knows how to play defense. Like, he's a pretty tough defender, but that's good. Montreal needs to build depth on defense. It's another small move for them.
And Nichushkin's contract was around $3 million AAV for 2 years.
Good.
Which I think is about right, and I really think he's got a ton of talent, and obviously got forced back to Russia from the great coaching of Lindy. So now will Jim Montgomery be able to get the best and the most out of it? I think that would be a key for Dallas because I think he's a big talent.
Yeah, I've always liked him a lot. I think I felt like Hitchcock obviously didn't like him, but I like Nichushkin. I think he has a ton of talent. He could be a serious pickup for them. Much bigger pickup than it's a much bigger play than I think it's getting publicity for if he comes in and does what he can do, because he does come in. It's like you're getting yourself a top 6 forward, which is what everyone's trying to do in it today. So
here's another good one for Montreal. Matthew Pekka, 2 years, $1.3 million. I mean, Mike just saw him recently. He's a pretty good player. Like, that's, again, building depth on defense. At least Montreal's trying to bring guys in now and realizing it's not all going to come from the
I think Pekka got lost in the numbers game in Tampa because Tampa's so deep. I mean, they got young guys like Radish coming in and a few others. I mean, he was very impressive in the Calder Cup playoffs last year and this year, and he was hurt this year. So, yeah, that was a good signing. Brian Flynn, 1 year, $650,000 with St. Louis. Eric Braga, who just bought out from Edmonton, 1 year, $700,000. Here. Minnesota, another character guy, JT Brown, 2 years, $687,500. So, okay, what am I missing here? What Peter? Minnesota, you saw. I don't think Minnesota was short of character last year, but they've added Hendricks, they've added Brown, and they've added Patterson.
I don't understand it at all.
No, remember who you're talking. Remember, they've changed their general manager. I mean, so you have a GM in there who's trying to put his own stamp on things. You know, he's bringing in players like he's bringing in Nashville type players. To be honest, I mean, he's bringing in the kind of guy the Predators always have. You know, like and
they're not huge risk deals either, though, right? Like they're not. So let's see, but you know, GM's always, as Ek just said, GM's always going to bring in the players they want and sort of believe in and stuff. I mean, the Pattern won 3 years, okay. I mean. Hendricks 1 year at $700K, big deal. Sealer, well, he was an RFA, but this is the kind of thing that they're going to do. And I think this is going to be this weird transition year for Minnesota in that they're going to have to sort of, you know, Boudreau's going to have to do his sort of thing. And he's going to have to adapt to sort of a changing roster as it comes. And whatever that is, it's going to be that transition year for Minnesota, and I guess we're starting to see the little bits of it of how they're going to try and manage that.
Let me ask you this.
I'm waiting for the Harry Zonachuk saying next. Go ahead, first.
When you have a team that is owned, when you have two teams that's owned by the same guy and Josh Harris is out in LA pitching to LeBron James, is that why the Devils are so quiet? It could be.
Hey, Jurish to Toronto.
Josh Juris, wow, that's
Josh Juris to Toronto.
I don't know if he's having fun here on Twitter or not. He just tweeted out his own personal account going to Phoenix, but he had a winky emoticon on it. So
who did this?
Who's that?
Grabner, which means Arizona, as we all know, was in Jason. I wonder now if they're basically going for second. If Grabner's not just playing with people here on Twitter and being serious, he's saying going to Phoenix. So he may have been their plan B.
I don't know.
Grabner's Twitter, literally about not even a minute ago.
I think that sounds like a logical thing for a logical place for him to go, and. You know,
and according to LeBron, Nick Holden, I don't know if you guys mentioned already, is going to Vegas. 2 years at low $2 million per season.
Well, I mean, the Juris signing. I mean, he was with the Rangers, right, Jan?
Yeah, very briefly.
Yeah, I mean,
there wasn't much there.
To me, that smacks to me of a Marley signing more than anything. Yeah, I think so. Okay, that. Believe me, that's not the news that Leaf fans are looking for right now.
I'm not. I'm going to say this out there again. I'm still not 100% convinced that this Bobby Ryan and Erik Karlsson to Vegas thing is real. As much as people want to say it's real, as much as you know, it just doesn't. There's something about it that feels weird. It feels like it's coming. And just from my experience in dealing with rumors. It feels like it's coming from the Senators' side of things for sure, because it's a very harmful thing for the Vegas Knights to leak, because you're talking about a lot of things they're gonna have to give up on this, right? So they're not going to put it out there that they're involved in this at all. Now, they definitely were involved at the trade deadline, but you know. I'm not buying it today. I don't know.
Well, the one thing about that potential deal, and I'm with you, I'm skeptical about Vegas doing it now simply because they would have to give up assets to get Carlson when they could again simply wait a year and wait for him to hit free agency is the fact that, you know, they're not, like Russ said, they're not made of assets right now. You expect Cody Glass in a deal for Ryan and Eric Carlson. I mean, that's their best prospect in the organization. They don't want to give them up.
I don't understand Vegas and not keeping James Neal. Like, that's another thing I don't get. Like, I understand.
No, I get it. I
get it from the logical perspective of how things usually run. But if you're in Vegas, you have to kind of, have you learned by now that logic isn't necessarily how this team runs? Like, this team runs on a certain amount of a combination of things, you know, and James Neal was a big part of that. I'm not a big James Neal fan. I wouldn't want him on my team. I've said that many times. I think he's not the greatest locker room guy, even though he was apparently in Vegas. I think he's not. I think he shows up at times, doesn't show up at other times. But I'm not a huge James Neal fan. But at the same time, it just makes no sense that they're letting him go like this, in my opinion, when they've got all this money. And yeah, they have to grow things, but they still have plenty of money. I mean, even if they let things grow, I mean. And if they get Carlson, that changes everything. Like, that changes the whole dynamic of this team.
Whoa.
By the way, Dion Grabner is, according to Elliot Friedman, is 3 years at $3.35 million for Grabner.
With who?
Michael Grabner. This is from Elliot
million.
Friedman. 3 years at 3.35 AAV.
that's fine.
Good for him.
Good for Grabner.
Yeah, good for him. That's a good.
I would not have minded him back in New York, but I don't think they would have gone to that term.
Enjoy the sun and the golf. Enjoy the sun and the golf.
Let's review for a minute. If you go back now and we look at the Carolina Hurricanes.
Ooh, Mrazek to Carolina.
Okay. And that's where I was going. If you look at
Sorry,
them,
Russ.
they are worse than they were last year. Like, I can't make an argument that they're any better. Lechnikov is not that much better.
There you go, Mrazek and Scott Darling. Let that speak for itself.
I mean,
wow.
You're gonna need a big locker room to fit those guys in there. I have to say. They can't both.
Yeah,
they can't both walk through the door at the same time. Put it that way.
I know. Russ will probably disagree. They would have been better off if they re-signed Cam Ward for another year.
Absolutely.
I would have done that over that.
There's no question about that. I haven't understand it the entire time. You know, like that. I don't.
I honestly, I don't get what the Canes are doing. I
don't think I completely get what they're doing. I'm going to be honest about that. Like, I really don't. Like, I think that I mean, I really, really like Waddell. He's a great guy. He did not want to be the general manager. He's
right,
good
and I'm
job because he's a company guy, but he's more of a team president than a GM. No question about it. Like, he is the guy we've talked about many times. He's the guy who walks in the concourse, says hello to the fans. He's a great. I mean, he's a fantastic. He's he was Tom Laidlaw's defensive partner in college.
Okay.
Pretty funny. Like, for 4 years in college, the two of them skated next to each other. At the University of Northern.
I'm not casting aspersions on Don Waddell. I'm sure he's a fine guy. I'm just saying, and he's probably under the directions of Dundon to do this. And the deal that they made with Calgary, the deal smacked of cost certainty. They didn't want to pay Hanifin. So they knew Hamilton was making 5.4, and I think it's another 4 years, and that was the main motivation behind the deal. And the Fox is if they can get Fox signed, that's the plum. Yeah. But they didn't improve themselves. They really didn't. Hanifin's a good
Svechnikov, but that's it. Like, yeah. That's it.
Hang on, guys. Just another little thing here. I know it's a little bit of an awkward transition here, but back to the whole thing with the McDonough deal. The OEL details just came out, and they're almost identical in the way the cap bounces, the salary bounces around. 8 million, 4 million, 10.5, 5.25, 10.5, 8, 5.25, 5.25. Again, no money up front, just a totally different way of bouncing the actual paid salary around given the years, right? Pretty fascinating how this is happening right now.
Well, what's the 2020 payment on that?
Hang on.
2020,
21 to
2021 is $4 million. Next year is $8 million.
Has it been reported that Zach Ronaldo has it been reported that he's headed to Nashville? As I just heard.
Yeah, I think it was a 3-year deal too.
All right, so
It was. Okay, sorry. Thanks.
so Jan, if you're right, then they're going to only pay him $4 million on a potential lockout year, which is smart.
yeah.
Interesting.
Blues signed
getting-
Chad Johnson to a 1-year, $1.75 million deal to back up Jake Allen.
Okay, that's
The other Johnson, right?
That's not good for the Jets.
That not
yeah.
Jack
I know.
who signed with Pittsburgh.
No, Chad Johnson. And Chad Johnson's a
Jack Johnson
is
backup goalie.
Chad
For that, he's going to be the backup goalie for the Blues as well as a defenseman for the Penguins this year. That's that Jack Johnson. He's doing something pretty good there.
Now the question is whether Chad Johnson can be as good a color commentator as Carter Hutton.
No, the question is, you can just write the story now. Who's the Blues starting playoff goalie? Chad Johnson or? I mean, it's just every year. It's like the backup goalie on the Blues does better than the starter. It's what happens.
That'll be the question as long as Jake Allen is in St. Louis, because Jake Allen is not a true number one goaltender. At least he hasn't shown the consistency of being one over the last 3 or 4 years. So I mean,
Absolutely.
they've had to. Yeah.
I mean, everyone who thinks. Can I say the most ridiculous rumor that's out there right now that people just keep putting out there, and I don't understand anyone who does this. The whole concept of Ryan O'Reilly for Parayko is just.
Makes no sense.
It's absolutely the most ridiculous. I mean, Parayko. Do we realize what Parayko is? Like, do people realize how good it is?
This is the thing. I completely agree that Parayko, that the Blues trading Parayko makes absolutely no sense. But when a guy like Pierre LeBrun is coming out and saying that the name has been circulating and was. And he didn't say this was a rumor, but he said if the Leafs got Tavares, that a Nylander for Parayko deal would be something that would make a lot of sense. For some reason, Parayko's name is out there, and it may just be complete
I think
bull crap. But
Parayko, that's a different story, right? I mean, okay, Parayko is really good, and so is Nylander. So that's something that you can sort of grab onto in some way, shape, or form. But the concept of Parayko for Ryan O'Reilly is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, and for Nylander, it's almost ridiculous, but it's at least believable. So I don't think his name. I think what happened is his name got out there, like you said, Mike. In this thing, his name gets out there, and then suddenly it's like he could possibly go other places too. No, this is just very specific to the Leafs situation. Like, okay, that's it. Parayko's name is not out there. It's just that's absurd.
So here's
the go ahead.
Colton Point signed his ELC, so that means Dallas will put him in the AHL, which means Mike will be very sad that he probably won't see Mike McKenna anymore. But this does put a really good young goalie in the Dallas system now, which is necessary for them maybe to even get to where they want to go in a couple of years. So that's really good for them. I mean, he was really good in college, and he had one good game in the World Juniors. So good for Colton Point.
All right, I got one here. I got something.
Go ahead.
There's a trade rumor that I haven't heard yet.
Mhm.
If it's out there, I don't know. But but the Montreal Canadiens are talking to the Minnesota Wild about Matt Dumba.
Really?
Yeah, but what are they giving up for Dumba? That's
Don't know.
it will be.
Shea Weber.
Yeah, Carl Alsner. Dumba and actually the funny thing is Carl Alsner played for Bruce Boudreau in Washington, so that's not out of the realm of possibility. Dumba and Spurgeon's name have been out there in terms of trade rumors for a little while. I don't know if that's probably because Minnesota needs some cap relief or what, but those are two pretty decent defensemen.
Think about it, Mike. I mean, Dumba had a 50-point year with 14 goals. He improved on last year. He's an RFA. They're close to a cap situation.
He's a good player.
Montreal's desperate for a defenseman, but they're going to pay dearly on this.
Yes, they are.
I mean, this is going to cost them a frontline player if they really want Matt Dumba.
How about Jake Gardner for Matt Dumba?
Who would do that?
50-point defenseman.
Michael,
Minnesota wouldn't do that.
Mike,
I would do it in about 3 seconds. Adam Boquist Adam Boquist signs this ELC with the Blackhawks, I would assume that he's probably going back to Sweden for a year or two, wouldn't you?
I'm pretty sure of that. I'm pretty sure of that.
So noted here, by the way, this is from Dave Isaac from the Courier Post. He says, so far JVR has done 2 live TV spots and the Flyers have yet to announce they've signed him. Now, of course, the opposite thing is, of course, they may have something else cooking.
Right, he did a spot with Sportsnet. It was mostly to say thank you to Toronto for the years of, you know, I mean,
may mean that Philadelphia is still potentially working on other things here, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say JVR.
That would mean the Flyers are working on a trade. Is what it would mean, because
that's what I'm thinking here. That's
the
what
Flyers don't let
Simmons.
that I think it's kind of ridiculous. Because it is ridiculous.
They now the thing is now they now officially Philadelphia. It's the thing of Mrazek. This could play a role here.
Yeah.
They now retain their 3rd round pick from the trade from Mrazek.
Right.
And that could be a potential chip that they were waiting to make sure they held on to before they could really start potentially making a deal.
You're a smart man. You're a smart man, Anthony. That's a good point.
Something to consider.
Heard it here, folks.
No. Hey, I got to give the Florida Panthers social media crew a nod here because, you know, like everybody's putting out their little memes of players, and even Brandon Manning got one from Chicago, which is probably the first one he's ever gotten. But they put one out for Yessi McCann, and they shows that he re-signed, and we all know that with the resign thing today, they put the hyphen, so good for them. And they put a little X, and they showed like a mock contract that he signed. I got to tell you, they're working hard there in Florida.
I like it. My goodness. So getting back there for a second, Anthony, like if they're trying to move Simmons, they don't want to mention that they've signed Van Riemsdyk. But the idea is that everyone, I mean, this is like, you know, the worst kept secret you can possibly have. He's already been on TV, like we're talking about. It's like Sportsnet talking about the fact he signed with the Flyers. So I think
Hextall is.
But you know, Hextall, in all likelihood, is sitting in a room without a television on. You know, because that's the way I can see him. You know, sitting, you know, with an old rotary phone.
Sure.
You know, the funny thing about Hextall is I would love to be a fly on the wall because his demeanor, you know, with the media is what it is. But we saw a little bit of Hexy. Like there's Hextall and then there's Hexy. I mean, Hextall's the GM. This is just like there was Bob Clark, and there was Bobby Clark. Bob Clark was the GM. Bobby Clark was the player that we grew up with. Bobby Clark was like a dirty, feisty player. Bob Clark was a quiet GM who lied a lot. Hextall is a reserved guy who wants to just wait for the future and will be patient with everybody. Hexy is the guy who said we were pissed off that we couldn't sit down with Tavares. We saw that. And that's the first time I thought as a GM that we actually saw Hextall as like the Hexy who like slashed players up, you know, and ran after Chris Chelios back in the day, right? So that's like a totally different person. But that's it. That's so wow. There you have it.
So according to Arthur Staple, it's now confirmed, and what everybody knows, the Islanders are kind of officially out on Tavares.
Really, we needed Arthur Staple to tell us that.
Did I not just say that?
I would. I'll go with Arthur Staple on that one, Russ.
Not on this one. We didn't. Did you really think the Islanders were getting back into it today for a 7-year deal? Come on.
No.
All right.
I'm going to tell you what today is like for an Islander fan, though. I'm going to go back to when Darryl Strawberry was impending a free agent for the Mets, and he just sort of slipped into the abyss, and then the next day you found out he was with the Dodgers. This is what's happened, and there are a lot of Met fans who are Islander fans, and I think they probably feel a little worse today because Met fans were 50-50 on Strawberry coming back.
I wanted him back, and I'm still pissed he left in 91.
Right, but I'm saying, but it's a similar situation where both organizations just sort of let a great marquee player just slip into the abyss. They didn't get any assets for him, and that's it. And that hurts, man. That hurts fans. It does.
And
hey, by the way, Russia just beat Spain in the World Cup.
He'll say he should have never left. So you wonder if Tavares will end up thinking the same way.
Yeah. Mute Peter, because he's talking about the World Cup. He's on the wrong show.
Hey, this is massive. Russia just beat
Spain. I know, Peter.
I just lost a bunch of money. I'm pretty ticked right now.
Apparently, the TSN panel has been saying, someone just been going, this is going nuts on Twitter. that Erik Karlsson has an attitude problem for smiling when the team is down 3-0.
Whatever. This is like ridiculousness.
Can we talk about how
You know,
that is? And can we also get and what does that remind you guys of here in Philadelphia?
I'm going to give you a comparison.
No, but remember in Philadelphia here, it was McNabb. Remember the quarterback?
No, but I'll give you a comparable that was like you saw it a lot. You saw this a lot with relief pitcher John Franco with the Mets. He would have this sort of weird smile in tough situations, but he wasn't smiling. He was like grimacing, and to like try and read a guy's face like he's smiling because he's down or when he's losing is ridiculous.
No,
Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
My
also
phone-
hearing there's more, and this shocks me, and I don't even like to report it because I don't see how it's possible. I put this in the Ryan O'Reilly world, but that the Oilers are mulling over 2 offers for Milan Lucic.
Yeah, that's been out there for a while, and
Yeah, I know, but
Chiarelli
it-
sort of shut. Right.
But it's actually, I mean, this is not from anybody, but this is from a player agent whose player. Put this. You guys,
Blues have tweeted out. Oh, sorry.
I guess I can say, and this is a player agent whose player or a player that he knows his deal. So like this is actually something that he's been warned to be prepared for. So that Lucic actually is another player coming from Edmonton with Lucic, which is what I wondered if they would actually try to move Klefbon and Lucic together. There's a concept I heard the other day. It's just, I don't know.
I don't think they're going to do that, but I will
no,
tell
I
you
don't think so either.
the Blues re-signed David Perron, so he's back in St. Louis.
Yeah, that we talked about, and that's crazy.
Okay, I didn't know you mentioned
No,
that.
that's totally fine. No, it's just I think that to me is so far that is the Milan Lucic deal of today for me. That's like
Yeah,
$16 million. I mean, for a guy who was scratched by the Vegas Knights in the Stanley Cup final.
yeah, that's a lot of money.
Vegas doesn't have a whole lot of depth, and Vegas is a great team, but this guy scored 20-plus goals and was scratched in the Stanley Cup finals. Doesn't make any sense.
All right, here's a signing for Edmonton, Kyle Brodziak.
Yeah.
Yep. It's fine. Keep throwing things out, even if we said it before, because new people are joining all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I got to tell you, like, it's very middling for Edmonton today. They really haven't done anything.
Yeah, they've got a whole host of problems, and they've got to bide some time here and get out from under those problems in different ways. And they're not going to trade themselves out because everyone's wise to them, and they're not going to draft themselves out of it in 1 year or 2 years. It's going to take some time. And they need someone like Lucic to have a rebound year. They need to find a way to get him doing more than what he's doing. And it's got their solutions have to come in from tactical changes, from player improvement, adjustments and stuff. Like there's just too many things there that like they've tried everything else and it doesn't work. They've got to really look within the organization and figure out some things that what can we do rather than trying to fix our problems externally all the time. They got to look internally now and be patient.
Yeah. I was told that they have an approach. Sorry, this is it's short attention span show is what we are, because it's just throwing out different random things because we're all doing different things at the same time. But I was told that Lucic hasn't been approached yet about this trade. He would have to be approached about the trade, and that's because the Oilers aren't happy with either of these offers.
Okay.
Which,
Arthur Staple from The Athletic, not that this is any kind of great shock, but it needs to be said, confirmed the Islanders are out of the running on Tavares.
yes.
I just said that 5
I
minutes
think
ago.
he was off when we
Okay,
said
I'm sorry, I was off.
It's okay. No, he was off. It's
Okay.
fine.
We appreciate the fact that you guys are listening to us, because we certainly aren't listening to each other.
Wow.
Oh, excuse me.
Wow,
When
shake
somebody,
your
when,
kayak there.
I didn't bring my headphones into the bathroom with me. Sorry about that.
What's the
guys.
matter with you? Seriously?
I mean, the Wild signed Matt Barkowski. I don't know if we said that, but a 1 year.
All right, here we go. Hurricanes pursuing Kapanen.
Well, then they should be trading. They should be trading a defenseman for
Wait,
him.
Sammy Kapanen's coming back?
Yeah,
Justin Falk.
could be another sign about Tavares' signing. Could be just that Carolina is desperate to get something going here besides Peter Mrazek. But whatever it is, yeah.
It's not a commentary on the value of Kasperi Kapanen, because I think he's a very talented player. but we're gonna end at one, Peter. But the Leafs are so deep on the wing in terms of young forwards, not just the top guys like Marner or Nylander, but Andreas Janssen, and they got a couple guys down in the American Hockey League who I think they believe are close to being ready to jump in a third or fourth line role. So to trade Kapanen, if they got themselves a defenseman that is in their top four, that's the move that they absolutely have to and need to make. And if they add Tavares today, and that's the one final piece to say, okay, you've come from a team with potential to a team that could be potentially a contender.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, I was told that they are going to give up a lot to get Kapanen.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, again, they're not addressing what I think are the right issues there. I mean, if they're getting Kapanen, they're clearly giving up a defenseman. Now, maybe it'll be Hayden Fleury, and that's not somebody they necessarily had slotted in full time this year, even though he's pretty close. But still, I mean, it would make them marginally better. But I look at this team and I think if they're going to start trading their defensive depth now, they already on the swap. Even though I like Dougie Hamilton, they lost a little bit on the swap with Hanifin. There's no way around that. He's a better defender. And so, like, you just start looking at this team, and it's like, all right, they're going to be a little different, but they're still not a playoff team. And they might have been a playoff team if they changed nothing and just brought in a different goalie.
Russ, would you do a Jake Bean for Kasperi Kapanen deal?
No, I'd rather die.
Okay, Russ.
Hearing something going down.
That's
an hour or two on a show.
That's unequivocal.
The show's about to end. I know some people have to get out of here. I might want to stretch it a little bit longer because something might be happening here. So anybody can hang out or no?
Oh, no, I'm getting close. It'll be
That's fine. If you gotta go, you gotta go.
1 o'clock's probably my cutoff here, guys.
That's totally fine. If you gotta go, you gotta go. Mike, you gotta go too. Mike has to go at 1. All right, so maybe it'll be me jumping in just in a little while. Keep an eye out. If something breaks, I will come back on. Maybe as a Facebook Live, even if not on here, but I'll just talking about on Facebook. That would be a good idea.
And I'll be available later. I'm just saying, like I
think tonight would be a good idea, probably, because there's so much.
Should be around. He's got to pick up my daughter at the airport at about 11 o'clock tonight. But other than that, I'm around.
Cool. Let's try for tonight, and I got a couple other people I might be able to get on later as well to kind of go through things. So
I'll touch base with Kevin Allen and see if he's available.
Yeah, let's check on that too. See if we can get that going because there's going to be a lot to talk about here. I think I do think that this afternoon we'll have a. Obviously, there's a reason Tavares hasn't been mentioned yet. Now, can we throw this possibly out there?
He's celebrating Canada Day. I don't think he's going to say anything today.
Well, is it possible that we are looking at a Zach Parise situation? Remember Zach Parise went to July.
Yeah.
So we talk about Ilya Kovalchuk too, as well. I mean, Ilya Kovalchuk took how long? It was like at least almost a week into free agency before we finally decided to sign with the Devils.
Right, because if you're the agent right now, you're sitting back. Okay, the Islanders thing, that was a big problem because if you're the agent, you want to get your team, you want to get your player the most you can possibly get, right? And you know the emotional connection to the Islanders is strong. You know the force is strong in him. So they broke him of that, and now you're looking at a situation where now I heard a rumor that the Sharks up their offer this morning.
I had heard 91 mil over 7 years. What I had seen.
So, we would love to have a wobbly Peter Tessier later. That would be fine, Peter. You can jump back on after your Canada Day celebrations. But is it possible? I mean, is it possible that that we see this stretch out? I'll never forget. On Parise, we all thought it was going to happen, and then suddenly, it was Parise and Suter, remember, and it happened on the 4th of July.
Well, that's the reason why it was 2 players and it was mega million deal. I think that there's a possibility that Toronto is in on DeHaan, but I don't think that's going to hold up Tavares. I think that'll be separate. I mean, I think I can't imagine that he hasn't. After all this, after almost a week, that he hasn't decided where he's going to go, and I don't believe that the offers, now that the 8th year is gone, that the offers are any significantly different. It's depending on where he wants to play. If he wants to play in San Jose, then I think it's there for him. But I think it's there for him in Toronto, and I think it's there for him in a couple other places as well.
Yeah, I mean, if someone just sent me this text, and it's really silly. It's a good way to kind of end out here. But
actually, I got one thing too. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Russ. You go first.
Well, here's the thing. So right now, the New York Islanders cap hit is $49 million. If they are either going to have to spend massively in the next couple days, or they may be a team that has trouble reaching the cap floor. And if I'm a fan of theirs, I'm now worried that they're going to overpay for some players just to reach the cap floor.
It's interesting.
That's where they're at.
Yeah, that really is where they're at. Especially, I mean, my gosh. Especially if they move Bobby Ryan in that deal.
I'll just give the Leaf fans watching, as after you basically stabbed them in the back act with the San Jose speculation. I'll give that.
They're not expecting anything anyway, Mike. So it doesn't matter. Come on.
No. I'll give them something to be hopeful for. Kyle Dubas. Yesterday, the Leafs PR indicated that Kyle Dubas was going to have a press conference at 2 p.m. Maybe they're just waiting for the press conference.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, that would be an exciting way to do it. I do get the sense the quietness behind the insiders, LeBron, McKenzie, they've said nothing today, if you noticed, about Tavares. That usually means that they are on they've been told that they can't talk. That's what I'm thinking. Like, because you're going to speculate unless you're told to shut up. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, I tell people all the time, someone says, I got something for you off the record. I'm like, hang it up. Boom, hang up the phone. Because somebody's off the record to me, it blocks me from saying it if I find it somewhere else.
Right
now, I mean, okay, and honestly, the only thing that's driving the drama of these shows on Sportsnet and TSN and even our show is Tavares. I mean, everything else, all the big, Stastny is gone, Bozak is gone, Van Riemsdyk is gone, all the big names are gone except Tavares. And who owns Sportsnet and TSN? Fallon Rogers.
Put it out there as well. We don't mind the fact that this hasn't happened yet. We'll go on to the trade deadline, whatever.
But I'm just saying, who owns TSN and Sportsnet, and who owns the Maple Leafs? The same company. So this.
That's a fair point, Mike. Right. But I think a lot of this is going to come down to Tavares's people. Who's his agent? Brisson, right? Pat Brisson?
Pat Brisson.
Yeah. And Brisson, he's one of the top, if not the top guy. He's going to have this lockdown, and he knew that if he was going to be dealing with Lou, it was going to be locked down tight too. So this really isn't a surprise. There's a little bit, as things become eliminated, all of a sudden you hear some stuff coming out, right? Like LeBron just said, hearing that part of the issue with the Islanders was splitting seasons, non-financial, not the money, it was the other stuff. And, that's not surprising, because when Lou had to pony up money in New Jersey for Kovalchuk, he found a way to convince everyone to do it. So he can do it if he wants with the dollars. Yeah. But this is other stuff, right? And the fact that it comes out after they're eliminated is probably just standard. Okay, release this and go. The one thing I think that we've seen about the Tavares stuff that's a little different than the Stamkos situation was it's gone on longer. There's other issues at play, but it's been complete and utter lockdown on information, which is very different than we've seen in the past. And in the past on these days, right, we've had guys with their agents locked up in hotel rooms, taking calls and doing things and stuff. And it's just not happening that way anymore. And that's what's different.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. It is.
We were just asked a question on Twitter. It's a good question. And that is, now that Tavares has walked away, can we come up with other huge free agent losses where the team didn't get any compensation at all?
Probably Parise, Suter.
I think
again, the other question, the thing that I responded was, how many of these big deals have worked out for the signing team?
I'll give you one, and the answer
Nashville.
The answer to both those questions is Scott Niedermayer. Like Scott Niedermayer walked away
Yes.
from nothing and worked out incredibly.
Dave Pagnotta is now confirming that John Tavares has agreed to terms with the Maple Leafs.
Right.
This is Dave Pagnotta.
Dave
And it's
Pagnotta.
now on Sirius XM seems to be reporting it also, so it seems to be all over the place.
I read yesterday. Dave is one of the best by this.
Yeah.
What's great about Dave is he's not tied into TSN or Sportsnet. So, you know, if those guys had like a moratorium, so to speak, on it and couldn't talk about it, you know,
I'll give you a huge free agent loss, and then Mike can talk about Tavares. Huge free agent loss was for the Rangers. You know, it's an interesting one because Keith Yandel, you know, came to him in a trade, and they just let him go too. And the assets they gave up for him, you know, they'll never recoup. Like, that was a horrible loss for them.
Who was that, Russ?
Right on cue. Thanks, guys.
Yandel was a
Yandel?
horrible loss for them. They didn't regain anything after he just walked away.
Was that
Well,
Yandel, Russ?
Yandel.
But they traded him to Florida for a 6th-round pick before Florida re-signed him to a 7-year deal.
Wow, a 6th-round pick. That's great.
That walked away for nothing. I'm calling him
Oh, okay. Great.
And he was also misused by AV also.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting it from other sources here. Tavares is a Leaf.
There you go.
The media blackout is over. At one, the media blackout was at 1 o'clock. I was just told.
It was one. Exactly. They sucked people in for an hour and then it's gonna go. All right.
Good for that. That's a great signing for them.
Okay. I'm going into the bowels of.
What do we think of it? Do we like Tavares as a player? I'm just kidding.
I mean, come on. I mean,
we'll talk about it tonight. I'm
I
going.
mean, look, I'll tell you this. I saw, you know, Mark Spector writing last night that he thinks Tavares is overrated, and I had to challenge him on that because it was ridiculous in a lot of different ways. So there'll be a lot written about this, and regardless of what the
7 years for Toronto,
7 years
Tavares.
for Tavares. So,
Here comes Friedman.
yep, 7 years.
It was 1 o'clock. I'm telling you guys, it was 1 o'clock. Pagnotta jumped it.
7 years. What? 77 million.
That's why I was saying what I
it
was
probably
saying.
will be, but the idea is, and if that's the number, there will be plenty of people that will try and shoot this down and say it's horrible. They will.
Of course, because
Well, it's horrible if it costs some other things.
Right. Of course they will, Russ, because there are a lot of haters out there, and they, especially in Canadian markets, that despise despise the city of Toronto, not only the Maple Leafs, that despise, because it's 1/3 of the country's population. It's basically, Vancouver. If you say Toronto, they're ready to hang you. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I mean, I think this is a great move, and we'll see where it takes the team. But I will.
Well, clearly they're going to have to make some moves now of their own. So
Sure.
The conspiracy theory I'm going to throw out there is that TSN and Sportsnet knew our show ended at 1 o'clock, and they were just
But it didn't end. We hung on.
We held on.
and we screwed them by holding on. But it's obvious. I mean, it's so funny. Like they got an hour out of this of their programming. It's so right. I think, Mike, you're kind of dead on this one. I think that they let this go until 1 o'clock because the silence of it was so deafening.
Yep.
Pagnotta knew it was 1 o'clock. Like I said, I was starting to hear.
Hey guys, let's do a quick thing while we're all still here. What's your AAV? Anthony, you go first. AAV for Tavares.
12.
Jan?
I was thinking 11 and a half, 11.75. That was kind of what I was thinking.
It's going to be 11.2.
Mike?
11.
Russ?
I think it'll be just over 11 because of the provincial tax and all that other nonsense.
That's true.
Right now
I think it's going to be 12. I'm with Anthony. 12.
Austin
Maybe
Matthews.
a little
Just had to get that in.
Whoa.
Be there.
Go ahead.
Will Austin Matthews be higher?
No, I think it'll be the same.
It'll be the same.
And will that come today too?
No, Matthews is not going to sign this year, according to everything that I've heard. Matthews and Marner are going to play out their third year and hold the Leafs' feet to the fire.
Here's the bigger question. The bigger question, and this will come up in the next week. Will they make John Tavares instant captain?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think there's a chance they will.
There's a chance because Babcock knows him well and he's a more veteran guy. But I think they would only do it if Austin Matthews says he doesn't want it or doesn't think he's ready at this time.
Oh, they will make him the
All
captain.
right, here we go. Tavares tweeted out his own thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that I will go as far as to say this, that I bet you that they told him in their meeting that they were going to make him captain.
Well, they said there was a possibility that they put the C on the jersey. But Jan, what did it say? The
So
tweet.
I've been so fortunate to be an Islander, not only because of the love and support of the fan base, but because of how lucky I was to be around so many great people, from ownership through management, staff, and of course all my teammates, to help me mature and grow into what I am today. I will always be thankful for how they molded and guided me to be a better person and hockey player, memories and friendships that I will hold forever close to my heart. Thank you, everyone, for your impact on me. I will always be grateful. My words will never be able to fully show the impact my time on the island had on me.
Yeah, and the first response after that well thought out statement was an expletive from an Islander fan.
Of course. I mean, I'm telling you, it's going to be a bad week or two now on the island, and Lou is going to have to deal with this fallout. This is going to be a lot of fallout.
Okay, guys, Ak, you have to end the show because
Ending the show.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, so much for joining. Thanks, everyone, for watching and visiting the website. Make sure you follow everybody on the panel on Twitter and they're all out there. And we'll be back again later probably to discuss this.
Yep.
Definitely going to continue to do the rumors on the website all day now. The rumors will begin in full force. We've got a lot of things. So Erik Karlsson, which would be the big story normally today, is still out there. And that's going to be something. And Skinner and Pacioretty, and it's going to be a fun day. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We're keeping going. Even though we're not on the air, follow the rumor tracker. Talk to you soon.